Hello and welcome to I Can't Believe It's Not the Mouse, the podcast all about animated features not made by the mouse. I'm your host, Octaviano, and today, I'm not going to be talking about an animated film or even a show. I want to talk about something that has been prevalent throughout the industry. And realistically, not even just animation. It's in the whole of entertainment industry, and realistically, it's in other things as well. But we are talking about entertainment here, and that is scandals. When it comes to a lot of people in the industry, there are a lot of talented people. And unfortunately, with that talent, there sometimes comes people who take advantage of the fact that they're talented. The thing is, it sucks because once we see how they took advantage of that, it normally ruins the good stuff that we've seen from them. It makes us feel like maybe we're wrong for liking their things. And the fact of the matter is, there's really no way around that, because when it comes to something like this, where there's a huge amount of people working on any given project, it becomes a whole thing where it's like, do I support it? Do I not support it? What should I do? And the thing is, there's really nothing you can do about that. Because as it turns out, we just are there in the sidelines. We're not the people who are affected by this directly. We are not the people who caused it. So, there's nothing we could really do about it. Beyond just maybe saying, hey, you're not getting my money anymore. You're not getting my support. But then that comes to mind, well, what about the other people that worked on this project? What about the other people that didn't hurt people? And it becomes a whole complicated thing. And on top of that, you just have to stop and wonder, well, how do you feel about the things that you liked from that person, regardless of how you feel about what they did? It's just a hard feeling, because there really isn't much that you can do about that kind of stuff. It's just, bad things happen. What do you do? Now, I'm not going to play around. As of this recording, the most recent example of this is the creator of Rick and Morty, Justin Roiland. I know it's technically co-creator, but I mean, he voices Rick and Morty, so you hear his voice literally throughout the show more than Dan Harmon, who has his own issues, but we're mainly talking about that. I like Rick and Morty. I did an episode on it on this podcast, and I do watch the show regularly, even though I think that the more recent seasons have been a bit more inconsistent, but on the whole, when they are really good, they're incredibly good. So I do stick around and watch it. And it was one of those things where it's like, look, even without the show, I do like Justin Roiland's, voice work. And I'm not just trying to say that just to be like, this is pretty much me saying, forget those woke people. He doesn't deserve to be canceled or anything like that. Like, no, he deserves every bad thing that will happen to him. At least as long as it's within, he did some horrible things. So he deserves every bad thing that happened to him. But, I can't just suddenly say, well, I never liked them. I think the show was bad, and it was always bad, and we always knew about it, because there's a lot of times where creators do problematic stuff in their shows that are not reflective of who they are. And just because someone does something bad doesn't automatically mean that the show that they made was a good sign of how wrong they were. Sometimes, sure, maybe there is some things in there, but for the most part, that's not the case, and I don't think that's the case for Rick and Morty. There's a lot of talented writers on the show. I don't know if Justin Roiland's even done much on the show beyond voicing it in recent years, given that he has other shows to work on. So, it sucks. That's the thing. It's like, obviously, at this moment, I feel like I shouldn't watch any more Rick and Morty, but then again, there's not going to be another season until maybe the summer, maybe later, given how these things are. I don't feel like watching Solar Opposites, which, to be fair, I kind of forget about every now and then because Hulu doesn't really advertise it all that much. I mean, it gets some here and there, but it just kind of comes and goes. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, at most, I could say that I'm not going to play High on Life, but then again, I wasn't already playing High on Life. So I don't want to feel like I'm just making some fake statement just to show, yes, I'm a good person. Because realistically, what does that do? Like, I could tell you that I don't watch this or that, and it's not really going to stop much from happening. I mean, of course, it won't give them much more money, but I mean, it doesn't necessarily make me a good person if that's all I'm doing. It's just, I don't really know. I mean, it's like, for me personally, the biggest, I guess you could say, betrayal that I ever felt from a creator was when it was revealed that John Lasseter was sexually harassing some people at Pixar. Even though we never learned the full details because Disney's really uptight on that, but we learned enough to know that that's pretty much what was happening. And the thing is, like, this was a guy that I viewed as like an inspirational figure. Like, he was pretty much like, for me, like a modern Walt Disney. And while I won't say that, like, oh, because of him, Pixar's gone downhill, because it hasn't, it's still done some really great stuff. And while John Lasseter did eventually come back to making a movie, granted, just as an exec, the movie that was put out was horrible, and that was Luck, which, if you remember, I was not too kind to. But still, to say that I was heartbroken is a pretty big understatement. I mean, I was pretty much like, look, I loved the guy's work. I loved Pixar. And by that point, he was also in charge of Disney Animation. And I was like, do I stop liking this stuff? I mean, I don't want to, because I still get some really positive stuff out of it. Really positive feelings, really positive, you know what I'm saying. And it's like, I can't really stop myself from enjoying what he does or what he's done, without now thinking about how horrible he was to the people that were around him making these movies. And again, it's just like, I don't know what I could do about this. And what made it even worse was that when this was coming out, Pixar had pretty much been putting out, or was about to put out, Coco, which is one of the most personal Pixar movies to me, because it's a movie about my culture, and it just really hurt. And it's just like, again, I don't know what to do. And I in the end of the day, I still like Pixar. I still like the stuff that John did while he was there. Not the horrible things, of course, just the entertainment stuff, for the most part. And that's essentially what it is, that eventually you do come at a point where you realize that these horrible people will come in and do horrible things. And it might make it a little harder to enjoy their stuff. There are certain things that do make it hard, like, of course, with Johnny Depp. And look, I don't care about, the whole Johnny Depp or Amber Heard thing. I just know that, look, if you think that Johnny Depp didn't do anything, you clearly aren't paying attention and are just going for whatever the bots tell you. Not saying that Amber Heard isn't necessarily innocent, but to say that she's guilty without saying that Depp is guilty, is just a bunch of lies. To a point that, I mean, again, I don't want to turn this into a Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard thing, but I don't think she deserved the treatment that she got. That's all I'm going to say. It just feels like a bunch of guys were punching down on a woman and people followed. But with Johnny Depp, it's like, look, knowing that he has done some horrible things, I'm like, yeah, it makes it harder to enjoy stuff like the Pirates of the Caribbean, specifically the first one, to an extent the second and third. It makes it harder to enjoy Rango, but I do still enjoy those movies, and I do enjoy the performance. It's just that I ultimately come to remember, like, this guy is not good. Same thing with like Kevin Spacey, who was really good at playing, villain characters like he was Hopper and A Bug's Life. If we're going with animation, but he is a horrible person, and there's really nothing I can do about that. Like, of course, I could say, hey, don't give him more jobs, and that's pretty much the most I can do. I could, of course, not give him money, but I mean, there's really only so much that he's not really getting jobs right now, and if he eventually does, then yeah, sure, maybe I won't do that. But there's a whole complication of where's it going and whatnot. So again, I don't know what to tell you, because, well, it's very easy to say like, oh, don't support it. Again, other people work on this stuff. Like, granted, I'm not interested in that Hogwarts video game. I'm not interested in supporting anything Harry Potter. And while there are definitely people who are taking advantage of the whole, like, oh, well, the video game, developers, need to get paid too, which they already got paid. You don't have to worry about that. There is, I don't want to say a truth to it, because there isn't a truth to that, but in some cases, especially with movies, especially when you consider that certain people only get paid through royalties or any of that, if we're to get more money, which is why it's important to keep these streaming, playing and whatnot, so that people get paid for their work over time. That's a bit more harder to understand, especially because it's a matter of like, well, how big is the person that did the horrible thing involved with this thing? Like, in terms of Kevin Spacey, like, well, there was other actors in some of those movies. Do they deserve to be damned as well? John Lasseter was just an exec for some of those Disney movies that we really love from him. Do those deserve to be damned just because the guy who sat down and approved certain things said, okay, well, there you go? I don't think so. I think that's a bit much, but at the same time, I do understand wanting to make a stand and having to make the stand, and it becomes, again, a harder thing, because where do you go about it? Like, I know people will probably tell me like, oh, well, you can just do this or that, but then the hypocrisy sets in once you consider like, well, that other thing that you're perfectly fine with also has some of its own issues. I don't know. There's really no easy answer to it. I'm not gonna lie. There's no easy answer. I'm kind of struggling to even imagine an answer for it, because I'm just here thinking whatever answer I give you will not be satisfactory, not because I'm giving the wrong answer, but because, unfortunately, I don't know if there is a right answer on how to go about these things. The only thing I can say is just, if you enjoy these things, you're not wrong for having enjoyed it, especially if you didn't know that there was anything wrong going behind the scenes. Like, just because you liked a silly comedy about two people, a grandfather and a grandson, doing stuff that sometimes was nasty, sometimes was messed up, doesn't mean that you approve of, like, assaulting women or sexually harassing minors. Just because you like the toy movie doesn't mean that you approve of everything that John Lasseter did to hurt people that worked at Pixar. That's really all it comes down to. It's like, you're not wrong for enjoying those things. If you decide to make it your identity to enjoy those things just to insult those who feel offended by it, then yeah, you may have more problems. But at the same time, if you decide, okay, I'm gonna come in and villainize everyone who does find enjoyment out of these things, regardless if they've already, come out and said like, look, I know this is wrong, I'm not supporting any more work from this person, then you're also kind of an ass. Maybe not as much of an ass as the previous person, but at the same time, it's like, look, it already hurts for that person a lot. You don't need to villainize them for at least trying to acknowledge, like, look, I know what they did is wrong. I really don't know where to even go from this. I really just wanted to vent out a little bit of my feelings about this. It's definitely wrong. It does hurt my enjoyment of a show that I really enjoyed. At the same time, I can't deny that I have enjoyed the show, and I don't think I or anyone else who enjoys the show is bad for it. We didn't enjoy the show because we thought like, oh, this was the kind of person he was. I really don't know what else to say. I really just wanted to do this to vent out a little bit. I'm not to say that I'm not a bad person or that I'm a good person for wherever I stand on. I just want to make it clear, and maybe just wanted to connect with other people who might still be confused about these kind of things. Like, you're not bad for the things you enjoy, especially if when you enjoyed them, you didn't know that the person was horrible. And in some cases, even if you enjoy it while knowing that certain people are horrible. Because as it turns out, these things are complicated, and when you're enjoying a piece, you're not enjoying it because you're thinking, oh, this person did a bad thing. Whether you know it or not, you're enjoying it for how it makes you feel, how it relates to you, how it reminds you of an experience, or just anything like that. And I think it's important to acknowledge that you're not a bad person for enjoying things from problematic artists. You're also not good just because you say you never enjoy that thing, or you're 100% against that person no matter what they do. But there is a complicated gray line to it, and it's important for you to understand your own boundaries. It's important to understand the boundaries of others. And if you want to make a stand just to show support to certain groups of people, if certain groups of people are hurt, great. That's perfectly understandable. So, again, I don't know where to go from here. All I can say is that I hope the people who are hurt get some peace. I hope they don't get hurt again, at least not in the ways that these monsters have been hurting them. And I do hope that not only the industry but the world as a whole continues to find ways to make it harder for monsters like these to do the things that they do. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you again next time. Thank you for coming on today. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel where you'll see video versions of these podcasts. And if you just want to listen to them, there's always the option of just following the podcast on their various sites, whether it's Spotify, Podbean, or Apple Podcasts. Whatever you choose, I hope you continue enjoying these. And if you want to support me even further than that, there's always the option of Patreon. With Patreon, even just $1 will get your name on the video versions of this and on other videos that I may do outside of these podcasts. A few dollars more gets you some behind the scenes info, and as this continues to grow, you'll find that there's more perks to it. So I hope you consider supporting me through Patreon as well. In any case, again, thank you for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.